Hi there, welcome back to the Ginescast. I'm your host, Gina.annunziato. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a subject that I've rarely spoken about on the internet since I believe it is the most polarizing issue out there. But there are some questions that I think are important to raise in order to get us to a point where we can actually talk about things and not yell at one another. And considering this is occurring in the state that I'm currently living in, I think it's okay to begin the conversation here. So with that, please sit back and enjoy the Ginescast number 38, Big Apple Baby Talk. Living in New York City has its perks. There's tons of culture, history, and you could literally order onion rings at 3:54 in the morning and get them delivered to your door moments later. I definitely don't take enough of an advantage of living in this city, which I'm blaming on my overnight schedule and the fact that I haven't quite found a concealer to hide my eye bag sufficiently enough. I'm living a very comfortable life, and I can't be mad about that. But a recently passed bill in this state that's kind of being glossed over due to the fact that Virginia basically said hold my beer to the news media is kind of making me rethink things in a way and rethink what the hell am I actually doing here. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo recently signed into law the Reproductive Health Act, which essentially allows abortions past 24 weeks only if the mother's health is at risk or there's an absence of fetal viability. Okay, well, I'm sorry to kind of throw that at you. Abortion is a topic that I always kept in the back of my mind. I mean, I'm a woman. I'm supposed to have an opinion upon it, I believe. But it's very complicated for me. It's always been very complicated. I'm almost 33 years old, and at this point in my life, I mean, if I were to become pregnant, then I would have the baby. What's the point of me getting rid of something that it would just be that much harder for me to conceive when I have someone who loves me and wants to make a baby with me? Giving the baby, giving him or her up for adoption is kind of a different issue considering, well, there isn't a ring on my finger and there won't be anytime soon. Either way, what it all boils down to is that it's a very personal decision and one that absolutely should not be taken lightly. Now, I've really racked my head about this, and it's been a very difficult cast for me to do. And what I've come to the conclusion is I don't necessarily believe in me personally ever having an abortion, but I know that other women feel differently. And because I'm such a philosopher lately, I really need to break down this decision more and more, and this issue, this topic. I need to pull out a lot of different strings here, especially now that we've got lawmakers signing things into law like Cuomo did. I mentioned Virginia at the top of this cast, which is also out with a quite controversial bill on abortion. As of this writing, the media doesn't really seem too concerned with what Governor Ralph Northam's views on abortion are anymore. And that is because photos from college where he may or may not have been dressed up in blackface or a KKK outfit, well, they've made their rounds on the internet, so now everybody is kind of paying attention to that. And that is a whole different story at this point in the world. Nothing really surprises me anymore, you know what I'm saying? Either way, considering this mile-a-second news cycle, Northam's views kind of got pushed to the side. So let me remind you why people are so up in arms over this view, and this is from an interview with Virginia's WTOP radio.
When we talk about third trimester abortions, these are done with the consent of obviously the mother, with the consent of the physicians, more than one physician, by the way. And it's done in cases where there may be severe deformities, there may be a fetus that's non-viable. So in this particular example, if a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother.
He's talking about a controversial new bill put out by Delegate Cathy Tran, who, while she was being questioned about her new bill, said this.
How late in the third trimester could a physician perform an abortion if he indicated it would impair the mental health of the woman?
Or physical health.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm talking about the mental health.
So, I mean, through the third trimester. The third trimester goes all the way up to 40 weeks.
Okay. But to the end of the third trimester,
Yep, I don't think we have a limit in the bill.
where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth. She has physical signs that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified? She's dilating.
Mr. Chairman, that would be a decision that the doctor, the physician, and the woman would make at that point.
I understand that. I'm asking if your bill allows that.
My bill would allow that, yes.
Now, I would like you to do me a favor and just make sure that what you listen to, you can pick away things objectively. And I know that my audience is very good at doing that. I'm asking because this is the way that I'm approaching this whole discussion. You know, I've never known anybody who's personally had an abortion. I haven't had one, and I don't really know anybody in my immediate life who has, or they haven't told me. But these laws that are being put forward and the way that these lawmakers are describing them, it seems that they're designed as these umbrellas that cover each and every single incredibly rare possible scenario that could possibly cross the ethos of the human way. And my question is, should all laws do that? Is it possible to put in black and white, in this all-encompassing way, every single possible scenario? I mean, I don't know, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, because I thought that that's why we have courts and judges to interpret the law for us, should it get to that level. One of the things that really, really bugged me about the Virginia debacle was after these sound bites came out, and after people took it the way that I took it, which was like, what? Wait, did you just say that once the baby's delivered, you have the option of maybe getting rid of it? That sounded weird to me, and it sounded weird to a lot of other people too. What I didn't understand was that there was this kind of weird political gaslighting that happened. Northam tweeted this out, and then he deleted the tweet. Let me just read it to you here. And I would like to point out here that Northam is a pediatrician. I have devoted my life to caring for children, and any insinuation otherwise is shameful and disgusting. I mean, are people actually insinuating here, Governor? Are they insinuating that you said something that maybe hit their ears wrong? I don't understand that. I mean, maybe that's why he deleted it. I don't understand why you would say that, why you would try to trip people up and thinking that what they heard was not what they heard. Mark Herring, the Attorney General of Virginia, went ahead and tweeted this after Cathy, Tran, and Northam's comments came out. Trump and his Republicans in Richmond are trying to spread shameful lies about Cathy Tran, a tremendous delegate. Nice Trump word there. And Governor Virginia Ralph Northam, a man who served our nation in uniform and dedicated his life to caring for children as a pediatrician. Don't believe a word of it. I don't like the idea of people who are elevated to this level of power, who have the power to essentially, change laws. I'm not saying an attorney general does, but they have to interpret laws in a way. I don't like the idea that this person is telling me that the other side to not believe the other side. I don't like that. I don't like when any politician does that. I think that that's very disingenuous, and I think that I think people in general are kind of dumb, but it's kind of crazy to me that, you're discounting what they heard. You're discounting the feeling that they got after a very, very controversial statement. You heard it. I don't need to repeat it. Cathy Tran and Governor Northam were also kind of parroting the same thing, saying the same kind of phrase over and over again, talking about, women should make a choice and not let the government interfere. But I mean, here we are, government officials are discussing things and gaslighting you into thinking that your interpretation is wrong. Is that not government interfering in how people discuss this quite polarizing issue? And for me personally, the thing that I pull away from this entire mess, this train crash of a podcast right now, is this moral question of abortion. Something that is kind of lost when we even broach the subject. because I think the extremes on either side of this issue are kind of drowning out the questions that I have and those that I'd like you to ponder as you listen. Because I seem to recall, even just a few years ago, that the mantra that pro-abortion advocates would talk about was safe, legal, and rare. Now, and I've seen this online because I spend too much time online, you see women who, they're kind of nonchalantly talking about how normal abortion is, and they'll even proudly wear t-shirts proclaiming, I've had an abortion. There is a hashtag, shout your abortion. I don't know about you, but abortion just does not seem a thing to gloat about or be proud of that you had to make that choice. I found a Twitter thread that I'm very glad I found because the content is a bit disturbing to me. Either way, I'm always here to listen to opposite sides of things, Inexplicable blue checkmark Nona Willis Aronowitz very candidly told Twitter that, quote, I had an abortion the other day. Verbatim, she said, so I had an abortion the other day. Among other things, my experience made me realize just how supremely fucked up these fetal heartbeat bills really are. She goes on to talk about how she knew that, the moment she missed her first period, that she wanted to have the abortion but at 4.5 weeks. She was told it was too early to get an abortion because they couldn't see anything on the ultrasound. At 5.5 weeks pregnant, she was scheduled 5 days from there. So basically she had her for her abortion at 6.5 weeks pregnant. And the issue that she has is that, heartbeats can be detected at 6 weeks, and there's too many laws in those red flyover states that, forbid abortions past a certain time because, you have a heartbeat. You're what are you? That's life created there. I don't really know any other way to describe it, but if a heartbeat is there, that means a central system, a circulatory system has formed. I mean, it's life there. So it makes sense to me that certain states with, more red leanings would want to ban abortion after a certain amount of time. But Nona goes on to say that these bills are cruel, disingenuous, evil mind fucks and are designed to send an ominous message, even if they do get struck down by federal judges. Iowa's did, but Florida and Ohio are next. The goal is the Supreme Court, which I mean, it's very difficult for me to talk about a bill that bans an abortion after you see a heartbeat as cruel and disingenuous. I mean, that's just me. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, please, feel free to tell me what you think. I mean, it's disturbing in general to me that people would be so forthright about with information about that. But, that's just the oversharing nature of the internet, I guess. And because I've never had an abortion, I can't necessarily judge people on things that have happened. Currently have happened. They're currently in the past, so why rehash it in a way? But the main thing that I keep coming back to, the one thing I keep coming back to is this heartbeat bill. And we know that it's proven that a heartbeat forms around 6 or 7 weeks. And the argument is how are we supposed to plan abortions? Why should we plan abortions? Why is that the question? Why is your first thought after you realize you're pregnant is, I got to get rid of it? How do you get there? What precautions were not taken? I know that birth control can fail. It's not 100%. I get it. But why is it so taboo to ask that question? What did you not do? What did you not do? What did he not do? Why were you guys not more careful? And I'm sorry if that sounds really rude and something that you can't ask, but we're constantly being preached to about safe sex and access to birth control and shit. Is abortion birth control to people like this? I don't know. And just so we're clear, the bills that do ban abortion after a certain amount of time, they allow for abortion if it's a medical emergency, which I am in favor of. If there's something that is seriously medically wrong where the woman's life is at stake, then that drastic decision has to be made. I know that people have advocated, well, then she can just have a C-section. But you don't know in that scenario. And I feel like it's a very niche kind of thing where, again, we're putting a big blanket, putting a big umbrella over this very, hopefully, rare thing. And I do see the argument that people make that the government shouldn't necessarily force someone into carrying a baby to term that they don't want to have. I don't believe in government force in anything. But if something has a heartbeat, and you can advocate for choice all you want, in that moment, you're asking someone to make a choice about terminating life. I mean, what is growing inside you if it's not life? Can you morally terminate something that's alive? If the laws allow you, should you take them up on that offer? These are just questions that I'm not seeing being asked. It's just a bunch of, don't murder babies or abortion is normal. And I think because a lot of the time it's just very scary putting yourself not only in someone else's shoes, but you almost have to switch your brain out for a second to try to see where another person is coming from. And it's very uncomfortable to do that a lot. Because when you have such a polarizing issue like abortion, it can be a very tall order. People feel very strongly about it. And I don't blame them. Over the years, and I've mentioned this before, that I've gained this following that I think is very free to discuss things without fear of backlash or repercussion. And it is my favorite kind of audience that I'm glad that I've cultivated here on the internet. I feel like I can hear tons of different opinions when I pose a question. And so that's what I did. I went to my Twitter and asked people what they thought of abortion. And I was pretty sure that I would receive a grab bag of answers, and that's just what happened. It was from, her body, her choice, to joke answers like no one should ever have sex or babies ever. There are people who follow me. Then they were able to approach me and this subject honestly, and I really appreciate that. And it was very objective viewpoints that I got. A few people did tell me their stories, which I'm not going to repeat here because they're not my stories to tell. I think a majority of people were in the pool of abortion is wrong, in parentheses, extreme circumstances, it's okay. And then there were still others who said that they were pro-choice, but don't believe abortion should be used as birth control. So there's this kind of nice mixture of pretty much every single abortion argument I've ever heard ever. And I was so glad that I heard it from people who follow me and my audience. I thought that was very good to hear. This was good to hear. This was very refreshing because this is an issue where I don't ever think that you can necessarily put yourself in one corner and stay there. And even though that there are people on the internet who think that if you're in that corner, you can't leave, you can't even talk to the other people, you can't even be part of the conversation if you don't put yourself in the corner. And you can't talk to anybody over the other side either because, God forbid, you hear something that you might not want to hear. Abortion is always going to be that one issue that gets placed in the history books and the law books as black and white, but there's so much gray area to discuss after the ink has dried. What I think keeps happening, and why I think we have laws like we do in New York and they're trying to do it in Virginia, is that we're moving the goalposts too much because we're trying to include absolutely every single last scenario because we're talking to so many people and we're hearing all of their stories that we got to encompass it all, making that bill one big megaphone to encompass everything. I know that I may be ignorant in general when it comes to wording bills and things like that, just because I find fine print terribly boring. But I do know that when it comes to laws and government, there's a lot of interpretation going on because people are not, they're not perfect individuals. We all have flaws in a way, and we all have differences of opinion. So how is it possible that we still think that we can make one all-encompassing bill that will make literally everybody happy? the thing that I can't get on board with for people who advocate for abortion or even against abortion is that there's this sort of shaming going on into agreeing with your side. You can't pull away at one thread and say, well, in this scenario, I agree with it. In this, I don't. And I'm not sure what it is specifically about this issue. Maybe just because there is that moral quandary of which I still keep coming back to, the heartbeat, the fact that it's life, the fact that, you know, when if a pregnant woman is killed and her baby is killed, it's a double murder. But if you terminate a pregnancy, it's not a murder. There's just these contradictions that exist simultaneously that we're not looking at particularly. We're not discussing it. They get fluffed off. Well, no. It's women need abortion though. We need it. We keep talking about that. We need it. It's a normal procedure that we need. I mean, no, we don't. I don't. Why do I need to speak for all women? Why do you need to speak for all women? Why does that woman over there need to speak for all women, saying that it's something that women need? It's not something that women need. It's something that might be a reality for some women. Is that unfair to say? Are we at the point where we're so unbelievably divided that we can't even discuss each other's moral compasses? It's taken me a while to get here, and I apologize for that, because I did used to consider myself pro-choice, but now I don't really have a camp. I don't believe in abortions past a certain date, especially not third trimester abortions, unless there's a medically viable reason to do so. But from the research that I've had, I don't think that there is one in the third trimester. I mean, so far I haven't seen any other reason other than the baby passed away in utero, which would already render it non-viable. There are certain scenarios I can't judge, such as cases of incest or rape, and they do happen. One statistic I found was something like 25,000 rape-related conceptions yearly in the U.S., and I've said before that one rape is one rape too many. These are extreme cases, and I would never judge someone who terminates a pregnancy from that. But I also, and I'm sorry for saying, but I believe that there are people out there who do use these extreme cases to throw their blanket statement over why we need all abortion. And I think Cathy Tran did this very well in her bill proposal. Blanket statements can be dangerous, especially when we're not really sure what we're even advocating for anymore. And I do hope for Distensible discussions in the future, and I hope that we haven't moved the goalposts so much that we can deliver a baby and have it there comfortable, as Northam said, and decide whether or not to terminate its life. I mean, we haven't become that deluded, have we? I mean, am I missing something here? Because I'll admit if I was, because even one Virginia lawmaker apologized for co-sponsoring the bill because she didn't read it all the way through. I mean, can we not have a discussion about this anymore? Are there moments we can agree to disagree and hope that maybe we can look at abortion as a necessary evil instead of celebrating it and being happy that it had to come to this? And I really, I wish there was an answer. The only thing I can think of is, again, I am against the new law in New York. Please help me move out of here someday. Partial birth abortions, and I will never, ever, ever agree with abortion used in place of birth control. I don't want to normalize abortion. And you've seen it in the media. You've seen Sex and the City had a whole arc about Miranda, who got pregnant and decided to keep the baby. She was going to get an abortion, and we found out that Carrie had one and Samantha had two, and it was treated with respect, I thought. And even in the show Girls, Miss Lena Dunham, our favorite person, who literally said that she wished she had an abortion so she know what it kind of felt like so she can be an advocate for it. Okay, Mrs. It's a weirdo. But even her show had about, She got pregnant at the very end of it, and the doctor immediately said, well, I'll help you take care of the abortion. And she was like, who said I wanted an abortion? I mean, you just don't know unless you're put in this scenario. All I wish for is to be informed about how people feel about it and understand that, it's not a procedure to be celebrated. I can't get on board with that. I can't advocate for it. I would like to be in favor of, women's health care, but I don't consider this health care. I consider this a last-ditch effort when all other options are off the table. And, but I will say I am glad that the government is not forcing me to carry a child that I cannot carry. And, I wish more people had open minds to listen to all these kinds of different viewpoints. I know that I'm throwing out there a mile a minute right now, but one of the comments I got on Twitter was, which was super optimistic, is that maybe one day birth control will be so advanced that abortions won't be necessary anymore, only in the most rare of scenarios. That's more optimistic than I can even fathom right now. I also saw elsewhere on the Nona thread that becoming a mother changes your mind about abortions. That you're weirdly understanding of women who don't want to be pregnant anymore. Wanting to nurture life inside you, wanting to care for something that was hopefully created out of love, and knowing that there's women out there who would rather do anything but that, that's got to be a sad reality that hits you right in the face. But then again, maybe what's going on is that there's too much thinking about what other people think. Because maybe you can't ever know how you feel until you're in that scenario. And unlike Lena Dunham, I would hope that most people wish that they never have to make a choice like this. Whether or not you're aware, you do have a choice of which side of the fence to fall on here. And maybe we should just start respecting each other's choices just a bit more and be thankful that the choice and the free will even exists. Because what is life without conflict? What is life without a heartbeat? What is life if not for the difficult choices we have to make sometimes? And I'm going to end this one a little differently, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Ginescast, because I think it's time to have a much longer discussion with people about this topic. And if you're interested in a stream down the line, I don't know when, but I would like you to please email me at gina.annunziato@gmail.com, and we can talk about it, because I know that this can go on, and it's very difficult to hear just one person prattling on and on about it. So I thank you so much for listening. Remember, the Ginescast comes out every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on both YouTube and iTunes. If you like this video, please give it a like, please leave a comment below, or share it with someone you think would like it. And if you want more from me, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at HelloGines, or shoot me an email. Again, gina.annunziato@gmail.com. Thank you so much for being here and listening to this episode of the Ginescast. I'm your host, Gina Annunziato, and I'll see you next time. Take care.